Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be working in the half kneeling position. Love the half kneeling position because it allows us to really work the pelvic mobility, ipsilateral, being able to move through anterior and posterior tilt through each individual side of our pelvis. Incredibly important with gait mechanics, and it's one of those movements that we tend to kind of lose awareness of, we lose control of. One side gets a little tight and restricted. We don't necessarily notice it, so we don't work on it, but it has huge impacts on our gait mechanics. So the half kneeling position is really a great position to work. So with all that, let's get started. We're going to start in the standing position, getting into our crocodile breath, making nice big C shapes with our hands, placing those hands around the abdominal wall, below the rib cage, above the hip bone. I want to be in that nice meaty section. Index fingers are wrapping around to the front. I want to be able to feel a little bit of the abdominal musculature. Thumbs are wrapping around the back. I want to feel a little bit of the low back musculature. And the palms are pressing into our side body to feel that side body musculature. And I want to imagine we're trying to breathe in and expand that abdominal wall like a balloon or like a crocodile on our inhale. On our exhale, we're drawing our navel into the spine as we exhale through our mouth. Inhale is in through our nose. And we'll get a good 5-6 breaths. And with each inhale, we're seeing if we can expand that abdominal wall out and away a little bit bigger. Can we grow that expansion? Can we make our balloon bigger? The hands are here to give us some resistance so that we can feel that inflation. So getting a nice inhale through the nose. Feel that wall pressing out onto the thumbs in the back, index fingers in the front, and palms through the side. Exhale. Draw that navel into the spine. Exhale as much as you can. And on the next inhale, filling up that balloon, seeing if we can make it a little bit bigger. As you get 3-4 breaths in, start to notice, is there a difference in how much you can get expansion on the right side versus the left side, especially in the thumbs and those side and the palms of your hands? Are you able to get that breath moving into the low back and out into the side body? After 5-6 breaths, we can let our arms soften. We're going to grab our staff. Want to get a nice shoulder width grip on the staff. This is where we're imagining that we're trying to bend or break the staff in two. I want that bend to happen at the wrist, through the elbows. Feel those elbows spiraling up to the ceiling, and shoulder blades packing down. Feel them slide down the rib cage like they're moving into your hip pockets. We're going to come right back into breath, but we're going to bring breath into some pelvic tilt. On our inhale, as we're filling up that abdominal wall, allow your pelvis to tilt forward and toward, like it's reaching down towards the floor. On the exhale, as we draw our navel in, we're scooping the pelvis. Feel that pelvis tuck underneath. Inhale, pelvis tilts forward. Feel that belly open up, nice big sway in the low back. Exhale. Nice scoop. Feel that belly draw in, full exhale. As you scoop, the more you scoop, if you keep the knees lightly extended, not locked, you should feel a little tightening and contraction in the glute. So I want to feel that nice scoop with contraction. And then on the next inhale, as we exhale, getting that scoop, we're going to start to lift our elbows up like we're pulling them to our ears. Now I want to make sure as we lift our arms that we're not losing that scoop of the pelvis. The reason I'm scooping that pelvis is I want to feel that rib cage drop. As I bring my arms up, I don't want that rib cage to extend and jet out. So I want to have that nice scoop, feel that core engagement, and see how far can you pull your elbows, maintaining a tight core with a rib cage down. Inhale, we let our arms come forward as we fill that belly up, get that sway in the back. Exhale, navel to spine as we scoop and we squeeze those elbows back a little bit further. And we'll do this for a good 5 to 10 reps. Each rep, we're seeing if we can get those elbows back further, but we're making sure that we are not losing the rib. I don't want to get into this sway back rib cage out in order to get more range of motion through our shoulders. Because that's not really getting range of motion at the shoulders, that's getting hyper range of motion in our mid-back. As you're doing this, notice how it feels on the left shoulder compared to the right shoulder. Is one side a little tighter and more restricted than the other? Once we get through 10, we're going to move the staff to behind the body, palms facing backwards. We're still bending that staff, so I still got that spiral through the elbows, feeling the shoulders pack down and back. As we inhale, and we're bending the staff away from the body. As we inhale, we can continue to let that belly open up. Exhale, draw that navel in, and at the same time, lifting the elbows up towards the ceiling. Inhale, lets them drop. Exhale, we're lifting as we scoop, and we're seeing if we can lift a little higher. I want to continue to keep that active bend in the staff. It's almost like I'm trying to bend it even more as I'm lifting. And the more we're able to spiral those elbow pits forward, the more we should feel that chest kind of open up and the sternum lifts a little bit. We should get a nice stretch across the upper chest. After 10, we're going to flip our palms to the opposite side of the staff. So palms are now facing forward, continuing to bend the staff away from the body. Everything else is the same. Nice inhale, filling up that belly. Exhale, draw navel in as you scoop and lift. And again, as we lift, we're continuing to actively spiral those elbows out and away like we're trying to break that staff in two. And notice the difference of right shoulder and left shoulder on this one, especially this front area of the shoulder. Is one side tighter and more restricted? You feel like you have a more limited range of motion on one shoulder compared to the other. After 10, we're going to get a nice wide grip on our staff. We're going to be exploring how far can we bring that staff with a wide grip up over the head. If we can get to this point, how far back can we go? Want to make sure we don't go into pain. So if there's any kind of pain in the shoulders, we are moving up to that edge of the pain, and then we're bringing our arms right back down. I don't want to force beyond into any kind of painful range. If you don't have pain and you can continue to go all the way through, back down to the hip and then back up without pain, then we're going to do this nice and slowly and smoothly. I want to make sure it's not clunky, it's not grindy or crepitous. I also want to make sure that we're not walking our shoulders through. We're seeing how far can we bring them both together, all the way through, and then back. We're just grooving here, so I don't want to force it. If it moves smoothly, then this is an opportunity to get some nice lubrication into that shoulder joint. And really getting up to 5, up to 10 reps nice and slow, it should get even smoother and smoother to move through that range of motion. All right, setting the staff down, we're now going to come all the way down to the floor into quadruped. In quadruped, want to spread hands wide, ground palms as much as you can. I want to ground as much of the hand as possible, including the fingers. So really spread them out, feel that good connection to the floor. Elbows are actively extended without fully locking them out. And I want the back toes tucked underneath. We're going to start with some light wrist mobility. Inhale, we're going to let our hips shift all the way back to our heels. With those toes loaded, we're getting a little bit of load into the ball of the big toe joint. As we exhale, we're rocking forward and loading into the wrist joint, making sure that we're not going into pain. Nice and slow, inhale, feel that load on the feet. Exhale, feel that load move to the wrist. Notice if that right wrist feels a little stiffer than the left wrist or other way around. Is it tight, restricted? Is it sensitive? Is it painful? If it's painful, I want to make sure that we are not moving into a level 3 or above. I want to keep it below that level 3. Next, we're going to turn fingers out to the side. We're doing a little bit of nice side-to-side glide. Again, still loading the wrists, noticing if the right wrist feels different than the left wrist. I also want to kind of feel the shoulder blade sliding back and forth on the rib cage. We can have that nice push and pull effect, pushing through one palm as I move away, pulling through the opposite palm as I move towards it. The more active you are in the palms, the more you'll feel the active at the level of the shoulder blade as well. Next, we're turning fingers all the way back towards the knees. Closer the hands come to the knees, the less intense this is. The further out we come, the more intense. I don't want this to be super intense, so I'm keeping it fairly close to the knees. Inhale, we're rocking forward. Exhale, we're lightly rocking hips to heels. Again, I got my big toe, my toes are tucked, so as I rock back, I can still feel a little bit of load on the toe joint. Might be a little bit more restricted because of the tightness and tension into the forearm, so I'm not focusing on the feet as much as I am the forearms and the wrists. Good. Next, we're going to flip our palms upside down to the back side of the palm. Now, this position can be uncomfortable, so I want to be light on it. Let the elbows bend to start with. We're going to lightly press into the floor to see how much can we extend the elbows without pain. And we're kind of seeing if there's some stretch. Do you notice there's a little bit of stretch, either at the wrist or the elbow or both? If so, then that's where we want to play. We want to play in the juicy nature of that stretch. Moving into it, straightening the elbows, and then letting them bend and soften, and then moving back into them. We're not being forceful. I'm not trying to force my elbows straight. I want to play in that non-painful level of the stretch and see if it gives me a little bit more range of motion. It does not have to go completely straight. It may take some time, meaning days, weeks, and months, to actually get that full elbow extension. If you can extend the elbows fully without locking them and without pain, then we can do a little bit of rock back, hips to heels, just like we did in the other positions. Exhale as we rock back. Inhale as we come forward. We're going to come back to nice grounded palms, extended elbows, toes tucked, and we're going to bring it back into our breath. Nice inhale, filling up our belly. We're going to get into breath with our pelvic tilt. So inhale, let that belly fill up. pelvis is going to tilt down to the floor as we get this nice big sway in our back. Exhale, we're drawing our navel in as we scoop. Now I want to stay light on this to make sure it's not painful in that low back area. Notice if you get some stretch, tightness or stretch in one or both directions of your pelvic tilt. Inhale as I open up my belly, nice big sway in the back. I don't have any pain. Also pay attention to any kind of pinch in the low back. I don't want to move into an excessive pinch. I definitely don't want to move into pain. Exhale, draw that navel in as we scoop. I've got some nice stretch. It feels a little sore in that low back area. So I want to be really soft and play in that juicy nature of the stretch non-forcefully. Use that breath to fill up that belly. Use that belly button as you exhale to draw that navel in and scoop. As that tightness and tension starts to improve a little bit, we're going to now continue to scoop, and we're going to allow that movement to now move up the rest of the spine. As it moves up into the upper back, shoulders, we're going to press into the floor through our palms, and then we're going to allow that movement to go over the top of our head, and we're going to imagine we're trying to touch our forehead to our tailbone at this imaginary place right in the middle. On our inhale, we're bringing it all back. Pelvis moves to the floor, draws the belly down. As it moves up to the sternum, we're letting that sternum reach down to the floor and the head comes up last. I want to imagine that our spine is a whip and the pelvis is the handle of a whip. And I want to see if we can create a wave-like action through the rest of the spine, generated through that pelvis, that tailbone. The tailbone moves, the rest of the spine follows. So our tailbone should move first. The head will move last into each position. See how smooth can you make that wave. And notice any areas of your spine where you feel some excess tension, restriction, tightness, soreness. Notice what level of the spine you might be feeling it on. That can be very helpful when we get into a consultation, especially if you're dealing with some kind of pain, especially if that pain's elsewhere in the body. A lot of times spine will get locked up related to issues at the extremity. All right, now we're going to bring our hands forward. This is where I want to get into our nice sticky gecko-like hands. I want our hands pressing down into the floor. I don't want them sliding out from under us. Elbows are actively straight as well. Notice my hips are over my knees and my hands are pretty well out in front. If you have some shoulder discomfort or instability, it is okay to let your hips sink back a little further. That'll allow you to keep more of your weight in your hips and less on the shoulders. If the shoulders are good and strong and healthy, I want to try to be as far out as possible so that we can isolate the shoulders on this. We're going to inhale, allow that belly to open up towards the floor, getting our sway back. Exhale, draw that navel in and scoop. We're going to do getting some of the same pelvic tilt action before we start adding in our child's pose. On the next inhale, as that pelvis tilts down, exhale, feel that scoop and reach your chest down to the floor. Inhale brings us back up. Allow that belly to open up. Exhale, we're scooping. Feel that rib cage draw down as we reach our sternum to the floor. What I want to avoid here is as we reach down, losing that pelvis. Our pelvis tilts back forward, we get this sway in the back, and our rib cage is sticking out at the bottom position. I want to be scooped. I want to feel that core engage. That rib cage is moving towards the pelvis, not towards the floor. And that can be a little bit of a difficult coordination if this is a new movement. It may take a little while to develop that neurology. On the next one, as we exhale and we're at the bottom of our pose, we're going to stay here in light tension, and now we're going to push through our hands, pushing our hands up. Since our hands are stuck to the floor, it's going to slide our hips back, and we're going to feel those shoulder blades rise up to our ears. And then we're going to pull from the hands, feeling the shoulder blades slide down the rib cage towards the hips. Exhale as you push. Inhale as you pull. See if you can feel that nice sliding up and down of the shoulder blade on the rib cage. Does it move the same amount on the left side as it does on the right side? Does one side feel less stable than the other? After about 5 to 10, we can come off the shoulders, shake them out a little bit, roll them out, get a little blood flow back into them. We're going to come back into that into a similar position for one more position so that we can get into the back line of our legs. So again, spreading hands, grounding palms. I'm back more in my quadruped position, but now we're going to lift the knees. Keeping the knees bent, I want to drop the chest. We're getting back into that child's pose position, but our knees are off the floor. See how deep can you get into safely and comfortably. Again, hands are grounded, palms are, I got my sticky gecko hands. From here, we're going to slowly extend one knee and reach that heel down to the floor to feel that nice length through the back line of the leg. Then we're going to inhale as we let that one soften, and exhale as we go to the opposite side, actively straightening that knee and reaching the heel to the floor. We're going to go back and forth with this nice little gas pedal. Feel that back line of the leg. Notice where does it feel like a stretch. Do you feel it more in the calf? Do you feel it more at the back of the knee? Do you feel it more up into the hamstring, higher in the thigh? Or do you feel a nice continuous stretch from the heel all the way up to the hip that includes all three areas? If this is feeling pretty easy as we're getting our gas pedal, we can take a 1/2 inch step forward with one foot and a 1/2 step forward with the other foot. That'll add a little bit more tension into that back line. Good. After about 10 on each side, bring the knees back to the floor. And now we're going to get into our half kneeling position. Now, half kneeling position tends to be can be a problem for people dealing with knee pain, knee inflammation, things like that. So if you have inflamed knees and this position tends to aggravate them, then we can use the chair as an alternative. All of the movements that I'm going to go through in the half kneeling, except for one of them, can be done in the chair. So knee can be lightly off the floor, but everything else positionally will be the same. Okay, so if knees, inflammation, pain in the knees is an issue, please use the chair instead of the floor. We're going to let the knee drop down directly underneath the hip. And I want that back foot tucked underneath. That big toe is planted and loaded as if we're going to spring up off the floor into a dead sprint. So I want to feel that nice active big toe in the floor. And we're going to focus first on breath in pelvic tilt. And we're only working one side of our pelvis. This is why I love the half kneeling position. Inhale into that belly, nice big sway in the back, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, drawing our navel in as we scoop. Feel that stretch through the front of the thigh. With each one, we're seeing if we can inhale and tilt a little further without going into pinch or pain in the back. Exhale, can you scoop a little bit more? Notice how as we scoop, we should feel some contraction in the back in that glute, especially if that big toe is grounded to the floor. We're going to do 5 up to 10 scoops on this side. And then we'll switch to the other side. Again, knee is directly under the hip. Big toe is locked in, tucked in and loaded. Nice inhale, filling up the belly, nice big sway in the back. Exhale, we're drawing that navel in as we scoop that opposite side pelvis, feeling that stretch through the front of that opposite side. Inhale, nice big sway in the back. Exhale, scoop. How does this side feel compared to the other side? My right pelvis, I have pretty good mobility. My left side is significantly tighter. As I scoop, I got a bigger stretch, and it's harder for me to get into that active glute that I got into on my right side. This is a known pattern. My left hip tends to stay tighter and more restricted to support instability in my right knee because I've had multiple knee surgeries and I'm still missing a ligament in this knee. So my left side has to work harder to stabilize my right side. But that creates a chronic issue of restriction in my left hip, and it changes my gait mechanics, which is why I'm constantly working on keeping this as mobile as possible, as mobile and stable as possible. After 10 on that side, we're going to switch back to the other side. We're going to do the exact same movement, but now we're going to add a layer to it. This is the one movement that you're not going to be able to do on the chair because we're going to be gliding forward, and that's going to be difficult to do while we're sitting down on the chair. So just go ahead and continue working on pelvic tilts if you're in a chair. Pelvic tilts, such a great action. Keep that going. For everyone else, we're going to inhale, fill up that belly, exhale, scoop, and I want to actively engage that scoop. And from here, we get to now lunge forward. But I want to resist losing that scoop. I want to be active into that scoop. Now, as we lunge forward, it's going to slowly pull us out of that scoop, but I want to resist it as much as possible. That's going to create some traction stretch. I don't want to be forceful with it. It should feel good and juicy. When we get back up to the top, exhale, nice active scoop. As we glide forward, feeling that length getting drawn out as that pelvis gets pulled out of our scoop. After 5 up to 10 reps on that side, we're going to switch to the other side. Again, make sure that big toe is tucked underneath and loaded. Start with that active scoop, navel drawn into spine, and then resist that scoop as we start lunging forward. This side, it's tighter on my scoop. It's definitely tighter as I add that lunge. but it feels good and juicy. I'm not moving into pain and I'm not being forceful. I'm kind of allowing my body to figure it out. How much length and tension does it need to hold based on the load patterns that it's being asked to do? And the more we move into some of these positions that require more length and length with more mobility with stability, the more our nervous system will adapt with mobility and stability. When we're forceful, we tend to bypass one or both of those things. We can get excess mobility without improving the stability, which then makes that excess mobility really risky and dangerous. Oh, this side feels good. Definitely tighter, but it's opening up ever so much. Still tighter than the other side. We're going to bring it back to our first side. I'm going to change my position so I'm facing forward. We're still working that breath. Inhale, opening up that belly. Exhale, drawing the navel in as we scoop. But now we're going to add in a reach to that same side hand. So I've got my right knee down. I'm going to reach up with my right hand. Inhale, fills up the belly, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, draw navel in and scoop. And while you hold that scoop, we're now going to reach up towards the ceiling. I want to see if we can draw that stretch of the front of the hip up into the abdominal viscera with a nice exhale. Inhale, we're letting the shoulder drop, breathing into the belly, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, scoop as we lift. What I want to avoid on this is I don't want to drop my opposite shoulder. I'm not trying to reach higher by shortening the opposite side. I want to keep that shoulder at the same level, but then see if I can reach higher on this side. I'm trying to get length through this side. I don't want that length to come from side bend. That's a different type of mobility than I want to get, that I'm seeking at the moment. Good. After 5 to 10 reps, I'm going to switch to the other side. Again, nice inhale, filling up the belly. Exhale, draw that navel in, scoop, and then adding in that reach. Again, notice if one side is tighter and more restricted. And notice in what ways, as we add new layers into the movement, that tightness and restriction shows up. My left side is tighter. I'm also noticing my left big toe is tighter when I'm working through this hip. And it's a little bit more tension with my reach through my hand than I had on the right side. Right side was actually fairly mobile, fairly easy. I got a good stretch, but it wasn't anything that was noticeably tight, at least not in comparison to this left side. And as we're going in through 5 to 10 reps, start to notice, do you get a little bit more freedom of movement? Does the movement start to open up a little bit more? Then we're going to switch back to the previous side. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and grab our staff. We're now going to do rotation, and I like using the staff because it helps keep our shoulders square so that we can really focus on good, even rotation on both sides. So we're still doing the same thing through the hip, getting that nice scoop on our exhale, feeling that stretch through the front of the hip. Now with the staff, we're going to place our hands on, each hand is going to go on the front of each shoulder. We're going to lift our elbows up, and we're going to place the staff underneath our hands on the front of the shoulder. So staff goes onto the front of the shoulder, then each hand goes over the top so that we're holding that staff in place. Elbows can come up high so that we have a nice shelf for the staff to sit on. I want to make sure that staff is staying in place because that makes sure that our shoulders are remaining square together. So we're going to get a nice inhale, filling up that belly. Exhale, scoop. And then as we scoop, we're going to rotate, turning our chest towards the leg that is elevated in front. And squeeze into it lightly. Inhale as we come back forward, letting that pelvis tilt to the floor. Exhale, draw the navel in as we scoop, and then add that rotation. Now as we get that rotation, I don't want our legs to rotate with. My front leg should not be opening up as I rotate. I want to stay grounded through the floor. If anything, my lower body is rotating in the opposite direction from the direction of my shoulders. I want to feel that nice contraction through our abdominals, obliques on that side that we're rotating towards. This is a really interesting and useful core exercise because it really isolates those obliques and it gives us some indication if one side is stronger or weaker than the other. After 5 to 10 reps, we're going to switch to the other side. Again, make sure that big toe is loaded in the back. Nice inhale into that belly. Exhale as you scoop actively. And then nice rotation towards the wall at your side. Inhale, bringing it back. And notice, how does this side feel compared to the other side? Is it tighter, more restricted? Are you able to go as far? In some ways, this direction actually feels a little bit more free than the other side. I feel like I have better access to my obliques. When I was working in the other direction, I actually felt some neurological weakness in my left side obliques that I'm not feeling on the right side. Good. After 5 to 10 reps, we're going to set the staff off to the side, and we're now going to come down into our shin box position. So I'm in left side shin box. My left palm is down on the ground, spiraling that elbow out and away so that we feel that nice tall chest, shoulder blade is kind of sliding down, packing down. We're going to focus on this back hip. We're really kind of still doing those same pelvic tilts that we just did on the in our half kneeling. Inhale, I want to allow that hip to reach down to the floor. Exhale, drawing navel in as we scoop. Can we feel that stretch on the front of the hip? Inhale, let the hip drop to the floor. Exhale, that hip has to lift off the floor, and we're trying to move it as forward as we can as we're scooping that tailbone. Can you feel that stretch through the front of the hip? Can you start to feel that same contraction in the glute that we got both in the half kneeling and in the standing position? And if you're having difficulty finding that glute, that might be because you lack the ability to get full hip extension, which would make this a really important set of movements to practice every day, because this is going to impact gait mechanics tremendously. If you cannot extend your hips, that's going to be a big deal. After 5 to 10 reps, we can slowly bring it across to the other side. Again, nice grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. Inhale, feeling that back hip drop to the floor. Exhale, scooping into it. And again, notice the difference left side to right side. Again, my left hip, this is a difficult movement to work on. I get restriction. Some days it's really hard for me to get that full hip extension. I have to work on it a lot. But it's because I work on it every day that I can still get to it. If I spend a little bit of time, I can get that glute to activate, I can get that hip extension. If I don't work on this, I can lose it, and I may lose it permanently, and then I will have permanent gait dysfunction. So these are important movements to practice every day, especially if you have any kind of a significant injury history to the ankles, knees, and hips. These are important movements to practice daily. And I'm starting to get that good locked in hip. Left hip just opened up for me. So moving back to the other side, we're going to do the same thing. Inhale, let that hip drop. Exhale, scoop. And then on the next inhale, as we let that hip drop, we're going to do lift our knee up towards the ceiling, getting that nice hip opener. Bring that hip knee back down. Exhale, scoop. Inhale, letting the hip back to the floor. Exhale, lift the knee up to the ceiling. Inhale, knee goes down. Exhale, scoop. Inhale, exhale, brings that knee up. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we'll do the same thing on the other side. Nice grounded palm, spiraled elbow. Inhale, that back hip drops. Exhale, scoops forward. Inhale, drops back down to the floor. Exhale, opens up that knee. Inhale, knee drops back down. Exhale, scoop that hip. Inhale, hip drops back down. Exhale, that knee lifts. Going through it a few times because there's a lot of cues, and I'm trying to keep that breath connected to the movement. Notice how much opening can you lift that knee up on one side compared to the other. Is one side tighter and more restricted? I have a little less range on this left hip. But as we're getting into it, again, left hip is starting to open up a little bit more. Then we're going to bring that back to the other side. And now we're going to get into our folds. I want to continue to breathe in, allowing that back hip to drop. Exhale, scooping it forward. But now as it's scooped forward, we're going to keep it locked. We're going to reach both hands through the shin, reaching evenly through the hands. I do not want one hand reaching further than the other. Exhale as we reach evenly. Inhale, we come all the way back up. Allow that back hip to drop. Exhale, scoops, and both hands reach. I want to feel this active scoop, a little bit of stretch on this back hip as we go into our fold. Now we also should be able to get some length and stretch through the same side glute. But I want to feel both of these at the same time. That load on the front of the back hip and load on the back of the front hip as we go into our fold. And we can do the same thing on the other side. Inhale, let that back hip drop. Exhale, scoop that back hip forward as we get into our fold. Now notice, do you have more tension on one side of both the scoop and in your fold? Is it harder to reach as far on one side as it is on the other? Again, these are going to be some indications of what might be taking place in our gait mechanics. So this is a really low-level area to work on to improve mobility in ways that can make our walking and running gait mechanics better, more efficient, less likely to cause irritation, inflammation, and pain. Once we get 5 to 10 on that side, we're going to start to go back and forth from one side to the other. So at this point, we can use our windshield wipers, bringing both legs across. I want to keep feet in contact with the floor on the windshield wiper. We can get into that fold on one side and then bring it all the way across to the other side. I want to continue to compare left side and right side together. Now, as we get into 3 to 5 reps, this is where I want to start to now open up our shin box. Allow that back leg to slide open a little bit more. This is going to change how this feels through the hips. And at this point, I'm less concerned about reaching both hands through the shin. We're just kind of finding where does our body want to go comfortably. How can we explore this position in a way that feels interesting, good, juicy, not painful, not stressful. Going back and forth. And with each one, we can open up that back leg a little bit more. How does this feel on the right side compared to the left side? And we'll continue to open up that back leg until we get closer and closer to what we would consider kind of a yoga class pigeon pose. I'm less concerned about that end range. I'm more concerned with just this nice exploration of side to side and noticing the ways in which the left side feel out of balance with the right side. Those areas where it feels out of balance are the areas that I consider more important than the end range itself. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and come all the way back up to standing. I want to finish with a little bit of 6 walks and some balance clockwork. So 6 walks. I think I'm going to start calling them silly walks. The 6 silly walks. I'm going to give you a couple of options. So we can work on each of these walks one side at a time, right? Load and then unload. I want to make sure that each position feels safe and comfortable. I'm going to teach it as walks working both sides together. So I'm just going to work the width of my mat. First one is we're coming up to the balls of our feet, and I want to we can let our feet come a little bit wide, allow the knees to bow in just a little bit. We're on the ball of our big toe predominantly. And from here, we're just taking little comfortable steps forwards on our mat and backwards. I'm only loading the ball of the big toe down. Outside ball of the pinky toe is off the floor. Knees are lightly in. And I want to think spring. I want to walk and feel a little springy so that I can feel some stretch in the arches of the feet. Notice if the right foot feels a little tighter or the left foot feels a little tighter through that arch of the foot, just at the base of the big toe. The next one is we're going to now let our knees turn out. We're still on the balls of the feet, but now we're going to be mostly on the ball of the pinky toe. Doing the exact same thing. Nice, easy walks. Making sure that we are safe, that this is not painful as we kind of move forwards and backwards on our mat. And again, this can be one side at a time. I can load just one leg and then unload if I need to work on this at an easier progression that feels safer. Next, we're bringing feet wide again. Knees are caving in again. We're loading on the inside edge of the feet. So the ball of the big toe and heel are on the floor. Doing the same walks, forward and backwards. Ball of the foot, heel are both on the floor at this point as we move forward and backwards. Again, notice the difference of how does this feel tension-wise on the left side compared to the right side. I have greater stretch and tension on my left ball and arch of the foot. My left foot tends to be stuck in a little bit of supination, which that tightened, kind of creates that tightened arch of the foot. So that's a normal thing for me to feel, but it's significantly different than my right foot. My right foot tends to be more open in pronation. All right, so now knees are going out and we are walking on the outside edge of the foot. Now this position is ankle roll position, so I want to make sure that we are safe and cautious. If this doesn't feel safe, we can start with just ankle rolls, light load, unload. You can have a staff or something that you're holding on to for balance and support to make sure that we're not putting too much weight and pressure on a vulnerable ankle. Ultimately, I want to have ankles that are strong enough that we can roll that foot and we can walk on that outside edge. Again, knees are out as we take our small, comfortable, safe steps, feeling that nice springy nature of our step, loading and unloading. This can be the more vulnerable position. It's also the most beneficial because if you get your ankles stronger through these positions, you can imagine if you find yourself on the edge of your foot where you're at the possibility of an ankle roll, you have this strength to be able to prevent it and prevent a catastrophic injury. All right, knees are caving back in. Now we're getting up onto our heels and we're walking on the inside edge of the heel. This one's going to feel a lot less springy, and it's probably the silliest one walk of them. Well, the heels are the two sillier walks of our silly walks. You'll also feel them really kind of activate that front of the ankle. Last one is knees are going out. We're still on our heels, so we're walking on the outside edges of the heels. And you may notice I'm not necessarily walking perfectly straight lines. I kind of like moving side to side. I may go forward, backwards a few times. I'm just kind of playing with that load pattern, seeing what, where it feels good, comfortable, juicy. And I'm noticing that really activated my right knee as well. So now we're going to get into our balance clock to finish things off. So balance clock, the most important thing is maintaining a solid tripod foot. Tripod foot is a foot where ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, and heel are all grounded, meaning they are not lifting up off the floor. A non-grounded foot is going to roll back and forth. Big toe comes up, pinky toe comes up. This is going bipod to bipod. You're not truly a tripod. Maintaining a tripod is the most important part of this movement. Once we're on that bipod, we're imagining we're standing on the face of a clock, and we're seeing how big can we make our clock? How far can we push the edge of the circle while maintaining that tripod? And here's the big rule. It doesn't matter how far I can reach with that tripod. I have to be able to get all the way back up to stand before I go to the next without losing connection with my foot. So if I reach, and it's like, oh man, I'm so good. But as I come back up, I lose my balance. Didn't count. You went too far. You did not have control. So we're working forward, backwards. We're working all the other numbers of the clock as well. Seeing how far can we push the edge safely. I don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're likely to fall. If you need to have a staff or something to balance with, that is okay. It's actually beneficial. The two most important positions of this clock, specific for glutes, is our 3 and 6 o'clock. Reaching straight out to the side and reaching back behind the hip. And the more you reach through the toes, straightening the toes at your end range, the more you're going to feel that glute active. So we'll do a minute on one foot, and then we'll go ahead and switch to the other foot. Again, nice spread foot, grounded, playing with how far can you push the edge of your circle, and how well can you stay stable through your right foot compared to your left foot. Now, my left hip is tighter in a few different areas to support instability in my right knee. When I'm on my right foot, it is far less stable. It's a lot harder for me to control my foot. I'm not able to go quite as far, and I have to move a lot more slowly because I have true instability in this knee. It creates instability at the foot. So again, I'm constantly working on maintaining as much stability with my mobility. The two are paired together. If you do not have good stability, you will not have good mobility. If you do not have good mobility, you will not have good stability. Good. Once we're done with that, we're going to come back into our standing position, making our nice big C shapes with our hands. Again, thumbs in the back, index fingers in the front. Let your shoulders soften. Nice inhale through the nose as we fill up that crocodile breath. Exhale out through the mouth as we draw our navel into our spine. As you inhale, notice any tension in the shoulders so that on your exhale you can kind of let those shoulders soften and relax. Focus on that exhale through the abdominals, drawing that navel into the spine. How big can you inflate that balloon? How does it feel now compared to the beginning of the session? Do you feel like you have a little bit more expansion? Do you feel like it's a little easier to fill up that the abdominal walls? And go ahead and let our hands drop down to the side, continuing to bring that nice breath in. I want to now go ahead and inhale, allow that pelvis to tilt forward. Exhale, navel to spine as we scoop. We're just going to play with this last little bit of pelvic tilt with our breath. As we're doing so on our inhale, we can start to bring that breath up into our chest. Exhale, start to let shoulders relax, start to feel that tension drop. Breathing in, filling up, fill up that tension. Exhale, feel that tension melt. And when you're ready, shake it out, and you're ready to go.